Welcome to Thought Crimez, baby.
And this is
Thought Crimez. Welcome to Thought Crimez, everyone. This is your girl Sincere.
And this is your man, Prince Solomon. We're going to go ahead and talk about Big KRIT's album, the latest one, Forever is a Mighty Long Time. And I like it, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're probably going to eventually segue to some other things kind of hovering around the topic at hand here as well. So,
a lot of things to talk about with Big KRIT, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, tell me, what did you think about the album? Make up your mind.
You beat me to the question. I was going to ask you what was your favorite track, but I'll ask you that after this. I thought overall it was a great album. Now, some people may get up in arms with me. I don't think it's the best Big KRIT album, though. Like the best ever. There's some albums that I actually prefer, but overall I think this is a top-notch album. You know, I personally will give it an 8, and I think he's an underrated producer. But again, there's a lot to talk about with Big KRIT. But before we even go to being underrated as a producer, because I think his production was really good on this album, as it all is with all the other ones as well, what was your best track or your favorite track on the album?
All right, my favorite track on this album, Forever is a Mighty Long Time. Well, first of all, here's the thing about it, right? I'm going to say this before I get to that. To me, this is production-wise. His production has grown because there's certain elements I've seen he's been infusing a little bit more of. The boy was already a co-producer from the jump. Definitely one of the more underrated, coldest producers they got of the new crop of MCs / producers.
Wait, Metro Boomin ain't better than Big KRIT?
No. A Big KRIT has more versatility production wise.
Also,
but
no shade to Metro.
No, we like Metro. I like Metro.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, Metro's a dope producer. It's better than that DJ Mustard shit, but I will leave that alone. Leave that alone.
No, you made
Shots
a great
fired.
point. No, you made a great point. DJ Mustard only sounds good with YG.
Yeah, they make a great team. That's why I think they should stick together and ride that gravy train as long as possible. Because I know DJ Mustard, he tried to break off into having the different features on his album like Zaytoven, and to me it just don't sound all that enthusiastic. But anyway, with Big KRIT, again, one of the colder producers they got here. I love his discography. This album to me is definitely a solid album. It's really strong, and I understand why people are reacting the way they are to this album. It's kind of like in the same sense when how some people's like, well, Damn is all right, and then some people's like, oh my God, I understand because it's a fresh energy from a particular era or a sonic style that people have been accustomed to and associating with the classics, quote unquote. With Big KRIT, this album, sonically, it does give me the Goody Mob feel, the old MJG albums. It gives me that Outkast feel, that organized noise
90s
feel
R&B
as well.
Blues, old blues, bluegrass, also some jazz instrumentations there. Definitely a bluesy album, but like you said, a lot of Goody Mob, Outkast, definitely Atlanta. And if you also go outside, well, he also has some Houston in there.
Yes, UGK. His flow is infused with Pimp C and Scarface. That every time I usually hear KRIT, I always definitely hear the Pimp C and Scarface in his flow. And
then also when it comes to his producing skills, you don't only hear Atlanta and Houston. You actually hear New Orleans. You also have some 90s R&B in there from the East Coast. So he's a very talented, of course, producer. And don't get me wrong, I know there were other people producing. He had other people like Manny Fresh in there, who hasn't been given even enough credit himself, wouldn't you say, when it comes to Manny Fresh?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, on the album 1999, that's one of my favorite tracks. I mean, what Manny Fresh has done, again, another understated. He's an understated cold ass producer. But here's my thing about Big KRIT. All right, sonically, what I got from this album, usually what I get from a KRIT album is a very syrupy, smoky sound he always brings, right? I mean, even we're talking about the era, like when you brought up with the R&B and the LaFace record era as well, the TLC era, that energy, even when he's pulling off the Brandy, Monique energy, the Jeanne energy. I mean, he does incorporate a lot of that into his music. And also, we cannot forget that his influence also comes by way of David Banner too as well.
Yes.
You know, I hear a lot of David Banner in his production too. I mean, I know KRIT has his own style, but David Banner is a cold producer. He's a dope ass rapper. The God Box is a classic to me. It's a classic to us. So yes, I want to get into one thing though. All right. As much as I love CeeLo, and I think in the Dungeon family, lyrically, CeeLo is the best and sharpest wordsmith, period.
You said that all the time.
Yeah.
Even in verses, when people have said Andre 3000 versus Big Boy, you always say, in the past, you said that CeeLo, aka Nars Barkley, was always better.
Yeah, he's just better.
Lyrically.
Just lyrically. And I don't know, sometimes a lot of times I prefer a singing voice, but that's a different story. However, though, I listened to the track everybody was talking about. We both listened to it. Look, CeeLo has had bars, but that one there, I think people was just happy to hear CeeLo rapping. But CeeLo, a couple years ago, he released a mixtape where he was giving you those complex bars and nobody was really talking about it. So I guess because it's a bigger spotlight, you know, with the likes of a Big KRIT, that when he steps in there and he's rapping, but I didn't think he was rhyming the complex rhyme schemes that he did on his previous Goody Mob albums. I thought he delivered a decent verse.
That's because it's due to the new ears mostly, if you think about it.
Right.
You know, everybody knows CeeLo mainstream-wise, big hits when he's Nars Barkley #1, but also mostly for his singing.
Yeah.
So for some people, they didn't even hear him rap. So to rap on the level of Big KRIT, and they never heard him rap, they're like, oh, yo, he shitted on you. It's kind of like even with the Marley brothers, like people didn't think anyone can outshine Nas.
Damian Marley did.
Yeah, but Damian Marley did. So they was like, oh, although in that regard, he really did.
Yeah.
And like you said, CeeLo can lyrically, for anyone who listens to the Goody Mob and stuff, lyrically, he's better, of course, superior to Big KRIT. But as you stated, though, in that particular verse, it wasn't like, oh my God, you know, you've heard better from CeeLo.
Yeah, I actually thought Big KRIT, he actually outshined him, but I know CeeLo has such a very unique, distinct voice. It just doesn't matter what.
A great voice.
Yeah, no matter what he say, it just sounds good. But that's him as an artist. We know about the other stuff. We talking about as an artist. That's where I just leave it at that. However, though, moving forward, you know, this album here, Confetti was a strong track. I liked it. Just gonna pull out some of the tracks because you asked me. You said which tracks. Big Bank, you know, I liked it. You know, KRIT and T.I. I always thought KRIT should do more production for T.I. because sometimes T.I. be getting to Scuzz Bucket territory. He do.
Scuzz Bucket,
yeah, what was the joint he had with B.O.B.? It was the train.
Oh yeah,
song.
I didn't like that. That's really bad. No, but no, T.I. To be honest with you, any Southern rapper, you're not saying he can't do it with West Coast. He probably sounds really good. He sounds
great on West Coast production.
With West Coast rappers. No, I mean rappers.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
He sounds good with any Southern rapper that is, you know, acclaimed for rapping. Yeah. I don't know about certain people, but I'm saying...
No 21 Savage.
Yeah, but he probably has done a track with 21 Savage, who knows, but T.I., David Banner, Killer Mike... Goody Mob, like all those people, it would just make sense. He sounds good with them. I would like to see maybe a album that is a collaborative effort where it's like Big KRIT, T.I. and just both of them throughout the whole album, or Big KRIT and Killer Mike. Actually, I'm leaning towards really wanting to see how that Big KRIT and Killer Mike would sound on an album, a joint album. You know,
yeah, that could be that sound like that could be a good joint there. Killer Mike, his production, I would like to see some more breadth in his production. I think Killer Mike is a dope lyricist, but it's like, I will say with T.I., he does experiment with laying his vocals on different types of production. You know,
that's why we want to see him with Big KRIT, because you know Big KRIT would be producing the album.
Which I have seen. I've seen Killer Mike. He's gotten over kind of rock bluesy tracks before
because he has a great his voice is very loud. Like his voice doesn't get drawn out. You know, there's other people that it just get drowned out, but his voice is very commanding, so he can rap over
Pretty much.
Type of,
which is why I would like to see more breadth in his production. I think Method Man is one of those dudes, his voice tends to get drowned out sometimes.
Yeah, too much. And that's why I agree with him and Redman. That one time when they was like, we like the Roots. They're one of the greatest bands, period, but also in hip hop history. But, for them, it would probably be better to do it the way that they prefer to do it.
Yeah.
More. Although one could say though, maybe the band should be able to tone it down some when it comes to a particular vocal chord. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would think so. Well, here's the thing is, like, vocally, when you listen to Method Man, one thing that's an appeal of his voice is he has a snuff, gritty roughness to his voice, right? And it works on like those tracks, All I Need, and all those type of soulful tracks. But live, I can see where he's going with that, which I agree with you. Like, some bands need to learn to tone it down. But Killer Mike octavely, his voice pierces the sound much like a Jay-Z does. If you listen to Jay-Z's voice, it's always on top of the instrumental. You know what I mean? Like, your voice does that. Your voice, it doesn't get drowned out. It does. It always, you always hear this crisp, it's clear. So anyway, going back to this, 1999, I liked.
Ride With Me.
Ride With Me was dope. Of course, Get Up to Get Down with CeeLo's Get Up to Come Down with CeeLo's overhyped verse. And
Sleepy Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not even mentioning Sleepy Brown here.
Yeah.
And we just basically
we'll
overlook Sleepy Brown on the track.
It's because people don't. I would say it's because how people view Sleepy Brown, right? Like, he's kind of like the lesser successful in appearance as an artist, southern brethren to that of a Nate Dogg. You know what I mean? Like, Sleepy Brown's hook lay down game is ridiculous. And in 95, if you guys get a chance, if you really want to see, because Sleepy Brown does have his own solo album he did, like, I think in 2000 something, early 2000.
It's a nice album.
Yeah, but if you guys, absolutely, if you guys want to check out like a really nice album from Sleepy Brown and some other contemporaries of his era, Soul Brainchild, I believe, they released a dope album in 95. Well, to me, it's a classic soul album.
And there's one thing I actually forgot my thought on it. I'm sorry, I'm going back on it before we really go into this album and continue on. Is when you said it's like when people was like, "Damn, it's super amazing over everything." It's because it's mainstream, and then there's everybody else. And when it comes to Good Kid, Mad City, when it comes to Pimp a Butterfly, both of them were mainstream in a very light way. But Damn was an album that pierced the Billboard at the very top, and it was #1 album, and all these other different entities that was just within it where everybody heard Damn. And even though there was better albums, hell, Untitled, of course, is a better album than Damn. Damn is not bad, it's not great, it's just good. And with Kendrick lyrically, I mean, he can make anything good. It's like even with Big K.R.I.T, lyrically in his musical ear, he can make anything sound good. So when it comes to Forever Is a Mighty Long Time, it's not like his best work of all time lyrically, but the production is hot, his lyricism is still hot, and he's just a great artist. So, and this is going to be his introduction though to a lot of people who haven't heard them before. And remember, some of these people may just listen to a 21 Savage, or they, first listened to Kendrick through Damn, and then they went back and checked out his other stuff. Now they're being introduced to Big K.R.I.T in a bigger audience.
Make up your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Get Up to Come Down with CeeLo Green and Sleepy Brown, which K.R.I.T is an offshoot of that family. Yeah, that family, that Banner, Organized Noise, Goody Mob, Outkast, MJG.
Mississippi.
Meridian. He's from Meridian, Mississippi.
No, I just brought it out. We forgot to mention the Mississippi sound with the blues and stuff.
I did. I talked about it at the beginning.
Okay, because I remember Houston and Atlanta. I wasn't sure if we mentioned. If we mentioned Mississippi.
It's Mississippi. It's Tennessee. What you got with the 3-6 Mafia, it's Florida, because at the earlier points of his career, Trick Daddy was bringing in a new fresh wave as well.
In a different sound.
In a different sound. and then you have New Orleans, which is what early Cash Money brought in as well. Of course, we got Houston, Texas. Dallas never quite made a splash on the scene, but I know they got boys out there, Tom Tom and Big Tuck and all them guys, but they never really made it nationally. But and then of course, Georgia as well. So I mean, yeah, that's that to me, that's my favorite type of Southern flavor, you know what I'm saying, from the South. Like I have no problem with the trap shit. It's cool, but I still appreciate this sound. So I will say this, I do appreciate what this album means in the, in that culture, that Southern culture sonically, of that syrupy, bluesy, Muddy Waters, organized noise sound. So I did like that. Also, I enjoyed Layup. Aux chord was dope. I really like that. You ain't even jamming, give me the aux chord. You know what I'm saying? Mixed Messages was a nice conceptual song about the confliction of the human mind and the spirit,
which I liked about that.
Yeah.
Am I being a hypocrite because I'm sending mixed messages? I'm saying, I'm godly, but I'm like, yo, I want to go to that strip club, or I want that woman to do this, that, and the third. And for a lot of people, it's like, where do I draw the line? Even though I can hide behind the excuse that I'm a sinner, but if I'm a sinner, shouldn't I not be glorifying that in my music though? Shouldn't I keep always saying I need to do better instead of saying one hand, I'm godly, this is what God told me, this is what I'm supposed to do, and then on another track glorifying, something else that is against those particular principles?
Absolutely, and what he was also doing, just adding on to your points there a little further here, what he was just highlighting the illogical fashion of just human beings. We got to be real. Part of the reason why folks, like especially online where, you can hide and people can only see one side of you. People are arguing with other people because they're adhering them or having them to adhere to a standard they don't live by. So yeah, some days you're up, some days you're down. It is what it is. I do like it. It's a continuum of ebb and flow. Let me say something here though,
Keep the Devil Off is my favorite one.
Yeah, Keep the Devil Off. Oh yeah, that's classic KRIT right there. Keep the Devil Off. I love the video too. Off.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I love the video. I love that video.
I think it's a great video, underrated video. It definitely needs even more views, but I definitely love the track. I love the visuals, and I also love the conceptual art of the album as well.
Oh, that art is banging. I think so far,
really
one of the best album covers I've seen this year.
Oh, and one last thing I gotta remember, when we're talking about trap, I want to make it clear that we're talking about the sonic sound of trap, because with 3 6 Mafia, with a Big KRIT, what he does when he even do the trap sound is a lot of instrumentation there. When you go into some of the other people like 21 Savage or some of the other guys, it's just completely all sonic. There's no live instrumentation added to it whatsoever. But with some of the other guys who've done it in the 90s or the early 2000s in the South, you had more live instrumentation, which is also something the South is really known for. Yeah. Live instrumentation as well, and all that in hip hop.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with you there, which is why I said I've listened to KRIT for so long that I was like, I knew it was gonna be a nice album. But there are people, like you said, that have just been introduced, and this is like some of the best things they've heard in a minute for them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and because the South gets slighted a lot. Yeah. Like it's like the South, when it came to instrumentations, like everyone acts like, to an extent, like with trap music, like the sound has been degraded because of Southern hip hop, but that's not necessarily the case, because at the very least they always have more live instrumentations within their music. Unfortunately, East Coasters got more credit with it, like LL Cool J when he did his live instrumentation on stage, or De La Soul, or A Tribe Called Quest, which all these people, don't get us wrong, they're kings of hip hop and they deserve their place, but I wouldn't say that comes directly from East Coast hip hop.
Quit hating on the South. I will say this, I'm just gonna say, like, growing up, like, we really never cared. Like when I heard stuff, because I read Source magazine, and the Source was always fair. They were really always fair. You had that thing where Andre, he came there because he was talking to the people. Like, he was like, look, y'all tripping, we got something to say. And I thought that was always nice. That was dope. But, cultural critics have always been fair to the South within hip hop. They have, right? Because they say, look, I want to hear some dope music from wherever, right? I don't care if you got on Gators. I don't care if you got a felt in your hat. I don't care if you got on Tim's and a do-rag. Just make some dope music. But there is this weird thing where everybody at some point, the fans have been like really like critical. And I think that just, like I said, that goes back to a stereotype about, the South and just people being inherently slower or things like that, where even got your country cousins that some people may be ashamed of because they don't say all the E's and R's at the end. It's a weird culture. It's a little deeper. I don't feel like going too far into it, but I've seen it fester into hip hop. I don't say anything too much about it. Like, you and I, we troll each other, we joke, but we be joking anyway. But what I'm saying is this, like, when you think about Muddy Waters, and when the Rolling Stones went to him and said they were influenced by him, this is a Southern artist. This is when you hear Jimi Hendrix spoke about his influence, he would pull up and erect Southern bluesy artists. He would pull up and erect some of these women and men that are of an era, blues coming out of by way of the South and it traveling up to the East, going up to the Midwest and going out to the West Coast. The South has been there for a lot of music, and I think in some regards, there have been bad acts.
This is going to be controversial, but keep it real. A lot of the great producers, though, that have produced some of the greatest East Coast tracks have been from the South. If we're talking about, even if we're talking about Timbaland, from Virginia. If we're talking about
DJ Premier.
DJ Premier from Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, and DJ Premier, he was a big part of shaping that East Coast sound.
That boom bap sound.
Which arguably one could say all that is what Premier's been doing all of his life was the blues and jazz. He'll tell you exactly where he pulls from, right? So, I mean, it is what it is, and I think we're at a point now, though.
But come on, as you as a Southerner from Georgia, let's keep it real, though.
You sound like that. As you was a nigger.
No. I'm just saying.
Nigger.
Not to cut
what do you read?
I'm cutting you off because I really want to. I do think it's very important because if you think about it, the South, just like any genre, has region has their issues. Some negative things they could have brought to music or just in general, right? But I've noticed the South do get blamed for almost everything negative in hip hop. They'll be like the South and NWA,
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is though, like even a lot of the premier beats and sound that we consider to be the staple of the East Coast rap or East Coast hip hop, we don't highlight the fact that these guys are Southern. Like, people didn't even know DJ Premier was from the South until he was on the Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm just saying. Like, when they look at the flavor, they look at the style, they see him, they see Gangstar, they just think this is completely 100% East Coast swagger. Yeah, that's all. So I'm just saying, how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's the reason why. It's the reason why the spirit of Pimp C is celebrated so much in the South. Where he was like, keep the South's name out your mouth, or we doing our own thing, or it is what it is. But, it's like, for instance, growing up, I knew DJ Premier was from the South, right? Because, I studied hip hop, I read, I know like where these people get their sound from. So it's like, it was nothing. So I would run into growing up. You be in a barbershop and you might get a loud East Coaster and they start clapping their hands and we run it. And I would just simply, we got Premier, and I'd be like, from the South. What you talking about? It to me, it's like it's an absence of knowledge. It's like respect the music, respect where it all comes from, and not even just the South, but even by way of Africa. We're talking about what they're doing with Afrobeat
and the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's like
what they brought to hip hop. Jamaica is not brought up enough as well.
Yeah, it's not even brought up enough, even within the East Coast contemporaries and Southern detractors, where they're like, the South has made this regressive music. Another reason why the South caught so much flack, because unlike the East and the West, they never had like the publications that you got out of the East or the West that could be the mouthpiece for the hip hop, right? So the East Coast was able to, have a publication, whether it was Source or Double XL. They were able to have these outlets that were deemed the Bibles or the textbooks for hip hop. And then what they can do, what they're going to do respectfully is highlight the people of their region, of their own. So they're going to be like, yo, this is Rakim, or this is a Noriega, or this is a Cormega, right? The South, it was more like they sell it out to Trump. It's by word of mouth. It's like almost like an African tradition. Like, you know, people just like, yo, Big K.R.I.T's hot. Yo, who Big K.R.I.T? Yo, I'm gonna go show you who he is. All right, and that's it. That's all we rolled on. At the most, we had Ozone magazine. That crashed, you know. So
the East Coast wrote the Bible. That's the whole point. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's like they are the people who put it on pen to paper on hip hop. Yeah. So even though hip hop was happening everywhere in the United States, the East Coast, though, the Northeast, we're talking about the Northeast, they were the first ones to really bring it into a mainstream consciousness, to the point where even people who were even within that as well, like you said, we're talking about the Caribbean, Jamaica, if we're talking about, you know, a lot of Southern producers, they kind of got overshadowed, or people just kind of assumed they were a part of the Northeast, you know, pot of hip hop, you know. And it's a thing with I know Brett, you're gonna have to take another shot because I'm gonna say nuance again. Mm-hmm. It's failing to look at the nuances and also the how, when it comes to a culture is usually never created within the bubble. No. So you even had LL Cool J when he came out with his debut solo album. He had a lot of West Coast producers, some Southern producers, and East Coast producers, you know, Northeast producers in his when it came to his production. So, you know, just, you know, putting it out there, because it also, I'm saying this because it leads to not appreciating, for example, the intelligence of even Southern rappers like Big K.R.I.T, you know. And you know, it's just something I just wanted to point out there, because I know people give the intelligence to Kendrick and they give it to J. Cole, who is from the South, but it's almost like, yeah, he ain't really from the South though. He's boom bap, you know, he's lyrical, so we going to take him as a Northeast rapper, and he's even defined as an East Coast rap, where T.I. has been very intellectual. I know he's very Geechee sounding. He's extremely Geechee sounding, but you know, lyrically, T.I. gets busy. You know, he had definitely dope albums. And, you know, Big K.R.I.T is very Geechee as well. But, you know, he brings a lot to the table. And, you know, just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, it's a two-way street, right? Because, like, the same Geechiness, like, let's say that's the appeal of a J. Cole. Well, I'm sorry, a Big K.R.I.T in the South, right? There's certain people, like, I'm not gonna lie, there's people I knew in the South, they just didn't take to J. Cole like that, because it's like, it's even sometimes when I used to get in circles, I got family in the South, and then you get to some of my family where they have a very pronounced diction in their speech, where they come across, people may say, yo, you sound like you're from Chicago or maybe somewhere from the East, right? And I got other parts of my family where you talk to them where their accent is very thick, right?
Absolutely.
And all people do, all black people do, right? So, I mean, I seen on the flip side. So, I mean, it's just one of those things I try not to really pay attention to, because I like listening to all types of different, I just don't like whack artists, period. You know, as you brought up with T.I., the boy has a very thick Geechee accent, which is why that lends credence, that adds more to the humor of how he, you know, articulates himself.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to pontificate correctly, one could renounce the hatred that is coming against me. And people, like, it's just funny though.
Yeah,
it's just funny. But lyrically, I mean, you know, because I do see people, they do draw a fault line. They be like, everybody on the South was whack and everybody on the East is dope. So I was like, well, I used to tell people all the time, for instance, I used to go like this. So if that's the case, can you say lyrically Noriega gets busier than T.I. on the microphone?
Hell no. And also another thing, it's also, so T.I. can't use what is deemed to be big words because of his accent. You know, if Nas said, you know, which sometimes he does throw those things in when he says it, do you say, oh, he's trying to sound smart?
No, it's
I mean, and if we shouldn't be making fun of people who want to, you know, explore their vocabulary and to expand on that.
You know, it didn't matter to me, I'll be honest with you, Sam, because I knew, and I still know, that T.I. is a lyrical beast, you know, so I was just always, I thought his character, he was just funny to me how he spoke. The same thing with 50 Cent. When I look at 50 and he says something, I just laugh because it's who he is. It's not like, oh, he a East Coast dude and he trying to, because 50 uses the word actually like a bunch of times, but like nobody rides him about that. Well, T.I. never uses the same word twice, but people ride him for having an expansive vocabulary, but only because of the stereotype of the South. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. Also, folks, if you want to do this, check out a dope book called Third Coast, Outkast, Timbaland, and how hip hop became a Southern thing. It's a really dope book. You should check it out, and it ties into a lot of things pertaining to Southern hip hop, East Coast hip hop, and actually West Coast hip hop, Midwest as well. But it also shows you how interwoven. It's even more interwoven than people try to draw them fault lines like this is the West, this is the Midwest, and this is the South, and this is the East. No production, people handle, as we talked about before. Queen Latifah talked about she managed Outkast.
Absolutely, yeah.
People don't like. I will say this. My complaint about this regionalism thing that goes on in hip hop, not as much, but when people feel like getting into their little issues on social media, they do. I wish we would highlight more so those types of things. How like Queen Latifah, a staple in East Coast hip hop, was management for Outkast, a staple in Southern hip hop. That shows you how more connected those things are. And I still, to some degree, think that was a part of the plan, even highlighting the East Coast and West Coast beef, where like they couldn't get all of these black multimillionaires to really just come together on one accord. But I know we got off all over the place, but the Big K.R.I.T album is really dope. I like what Sin said at the beginning. She said she doesn't feel it's his best work, but it's a really nice effort. It's a dope effort. I'm just gonna ride to it. It's a nice solid ass track album. I will say there's one track on there I didn't really like.
What was that track?
Let me go back. Was
it on disc 2 or disc 1?
It was on disc 1. I'm gonna pull it up right now. I think it might have been that second track. Whatever it was the fake Lloyd. It might have been Lloyd. It was that Lloyd sounding dude talking about the ass and all this. It was a strip club single.
No, I know what you're talking about. There was two, on this one there was a couple of the singing tracks. And 1999 was the one we liked.
That was a dope one. That
was like the 90s sound, but I can't remember which one it was either.
Yeah, I think it was one of them. But anyway, this album here, it still, K.R.I.T's energy fits in the line with, to me, Little Brother, Cunning Linguist, of course, J. Cole, Scarface, UGK, MJG, Organized Noise, Sleepy Brown, Outkast. I mean, I can go through the list. David Banner. So I think it's a great effort. And I will say I do appreciate, like I said, culturally what the sound represents, so we can keep this type of energy going, where the new guys like JID and Earth Gang and some of these newer cats can ride off that energy.
And we need more big tracks, more. More tracks like Flavor in Your Ear. When you had Buster, and then you had Biggie, you had LL Cool J. You just had so many people on that one track. I need more of that. Something like with Cole, K.R.I.T, Kendrick, Killer Mike, whoever, just everybody just going on a one track together.
You want more of them anthem tracks,
more of those collaborative tracks. Yeah, anthems, all that. Just have more of it.
I think the last one I saw, especially in the South after the whole DJ Khaled wave, was You All I Need for Bun B's album 2 Trio, where they had Rick Ross, they had David Banner and all them guys on there, MJG.
There was another one also with what's his face, that DJ Khaled, when he had Wayne, there was Ross, and there was other people on there, on that one track, but I wanted to see crossing regions though, because I know some of them, they do it with the same region, but I want to see cross regions where like guys from the East Coast, just like even that track with Drake, Kendrick, and ASAP, and ASAP Rocky, and
I Got a Fucking Problem.
Yeah, like something like that. Yeah, more of those type of tracks.
Minus Drake.
Drake, we'll give him credit. That verse was nice until he was talking about long dick. I was feeling him until he was like, "The long dick, big nigga." I was like,
it didn't sound believable, did it?
Yeah, stop it.
Yeah,
you just fucked up the verse. But outside of that, he had a nice verse on there.
Yeah. Okay, what do you give this album?
Hey, I think it's I can see people having it within a 7 or an 8. You know, for some people maybe a 10, but for me, 7 between. I'll give it a 7.5 or 8. Okay. I'm gonna rock with an 8 because I gave Damn an 8, and I think sound wise, this is a more enjoyable album than Damn is.
You talking about Man Bun Kenny? Oh man,
King Kuta.
Well, okay, for me, I just give this album. I give it a solid 9. You know, because
giving that southern twist.
I got to.
He's from Georgia, everybody. That's why he gave Georgia. It an extra point. Go ahead.
Georgia boy, you know, one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song, "Rainy Night in Georgia." You know, my folks used to play that a lot when we was younger, just running out in the rain while it was in Georgia. So, you know, because, you know, I love the Nappy Roots and all those southern artists that I mentioned before. So this album, to me, sonically, it means a lot. And as they say, that boy KRIT was snapping on every track.
Also, Glasper has been definitely getting in there with
Robert Glasper. I'm glad you brought that up.
With the producer for Kendrick on certain tracks. Big KRIT, you know, he's definitely a staple in hip hop as well. But you know, you got a nice list of producers on this Big KRIT album. You know, you got KRIT himself, who's a cold-blooded producer, Manny Fresh. You have Hey DJ. You just got Super Mario and Glasper. You know, so you got some people on here.
Yeah, a really dope album, and shouts out to Robert Glasper, man. Incredible discography. If y'all have nothing to do one day, just go listen to that man's work.
And also DJ Khalil, almost forgot about him, but don't want to forget about him because and Organized Noise and Corey Mo, you know, of course, don't want to forget about those guys either. But you know, it's pretty good album here. Pretty good.
Oh
album.
yeah. You know how they always chasing sounds, like, you know, people like, yo, I want to bring back that boom bap of the 90s.
Yes.
And we have
a lot of people are chasing that boom bap 90s and R&B style right now. Yeah.
And you know, you have some people that have done it, some people that haven't been able to be successful in doing it. To me personally, I like the sound of what we had at the time of Organized Noise and Goody Mob, Rico Wade, and I forget the brother's name that was doing the production of the bulk of the production of UGK's earlier albums. And you know, I like that energy, and that's why I say I think KRIT successfully accomplished that on this album. 84 minutes and 48 seconds in. I did see some people, they was like, man, damn, it's just too long. Hey, man, look.
How's it too long? It's music.
Well, yeah, because...
How's music too long? You know, you listen to half one day, go back, listen to the rest. I mean...
Well, it just depends. It's like, it's where do you put it? You know what I'm saying? It's where do you put it? Like, for me, I'm glad he made a double disc album, you know? I hope artists of his caliber, you know, tend to step out and do more of that. I would love to see a double disc album from a Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole.
I want to see it. Yeah. Absolutely, you know.
Oh, also, I would like to say this. I would like to see KRIT do some production or possibly mingle with, you know, of course, the likes of a Kendrick and, as you brought up, J. Cole successfully as well. But I would like to see what he can do with Erykah Badu.
Oh, music. Okay, we're going to R&B. Hey, I mean, if you're putting that on the table, I mean, who can he not work with?
Yeah.
You got Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Sade. I mean, even SZA, like, who can't he not work with and not
the type
sound
of style
sound
he
good?
got?
I mean, I would even like to see him with Isaiah.
Oh yeah, you talking about Isaiah Rashad?
Yeah.
Yes. Dope artist, absolutely dope artist as well. So, you know, yeah, KRIT, I will say he's a very versatile artist. Yeah.
We gotta bring out one last people. Steve, you know, thank you for letting us know about it, because, you know, he went to go see a concert with No Name Gypsy. Or
you talking about your vocal twin sister?
Yeah, she doesn't say Gypsy anymore. It's No Name. But he brought up an awesome group who's they're spitters, live instrumentation, also singing. You want to bring it up?
Oh yeah, Tank and the Bangers, New Orleans soul funk duo. Two sisters really knocking out. The whole band is just awesome.
Amazing, man.
And you guys, when you get a chance, check out Tank and the Bangers impromptu sessions, which is where they're always killing it.
We're gonna have another video actually showing a piece. You know, always check out NPR music. Whatever you think about NPR, the music session, I think maybe in a minority, maybe one time I didn't like who they put on, but they should be tight.
It's rare.
Yeah, it's extremely rare.
I can't think of the group right now, but they're an Ethiopian band. And I remember it was suggested by them, and I was like, man, I went back and started listening to their stuff online. It's really clean.
You want to listen to good music? Always check out NPR.
Yeah, that's what I said. The music is out there. Like, don't intentionally focus on these skittle-headed boys like Lil Pump and all them.
Who is that?
Yeah, you know. Oh, also, I want to say this. Gotta be real. I think right now, I understand how certain people feel, and they're saying KRIT is underrated. I tend to disagree. I don't think he's underrated. I think, in fact, he's going to be in a situation where he's going to garner more people to come along, possibly after this album. But people know who KRIT is. They respect him. His presence is there. They know about him. We got to be real. What happened with KRIT at the beginning of his career was
Def
unfortunate.
Jam derailed him.
It was unfortunate. Shy Money XL was the one who signed him on to Def Jam.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, go ahead. No, you was making that point. He was. Go ahead.
Yeah. All I was just gonna say was this: is that, you know, unfortunately, that's what stalled his career. He just got a later start as far as getting pronounced, but he had to put in more work, which gave him a better discography than some of his contemporaries who out the gate was on fire.
Yeah, I mean, you know, discography wise, if you're thinking about his contemporaries, you know, Kendrick Lamar, great discography. J. Cole, mostly good discography. So the people who are within his class, you know, they got some good works of art there, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, he's doing what he's doing, and I kind of think it's a disservice every time people mention KRIT. They first hyphen it when they say, "Oh, he's underrated." I think it's almost like
it's a double-edged sword because he is and he isn't. I mean, with his contemporaries, everybody respect him, but you know.
How are we looking to rate him is my question.
It's excuse me, he's underrated, and it's a disservice to him though on the other hand, because he should be up there with, you know, the Kendricks and the Coles. In fact, so many people are. The fact that we only mention Kendrick and Cole when we're talking about that class, because, you know, we know every 5 years you have a class, or even 5 to 10 years you have a class of rappers. And just to mention within that class only Cole and Kendrick, when you had so many who are still dope, that's a disservice. So in that regards, he's very underrated. And you know, he's a co-producer. Lyrically, one can say with the dexterity and breath, maybe Cole and Kendrick are better. Personally, I think they are, but everybody have their taste. But as an overall artist, you can say KRIT is better than both of them, depending on what your taste is.
Absolutely. Well, here's my thing about it. This is where I was just curious about it, right? This is why I think, for the most part, the South has kind of pushed on to do its own thing, right? Because, like what you said a little bit earlier, you was talking about Cole.
I know where you're going with this, and you're right about that. South always usually had an independence to them in hip hop before.
Well, yeah. Well, but also, like, people barely look at Cole as even just being biracial, right? Just
don't even say barely. They don't.
Right? Yeah, you
don't see him as biracial.
And then they don't even look at him as a Southern artist in the sense of, let's say, Outkast or KRIT, right?
No, only in recent times you see more blurring of the two.
Right.
When he first came out, he was kind of looking like, you know, wannabe fresh cut New York guy. No, I mean, it's the same when he had the fitteds on and stuff.
Yeah,
it was like,
which he was.
Which was weird because musically, when he first came out with his mixtapes and stuff, even though a lot of people said he sounded like an East Coaster in the way he rapped, he still had like the big sound of the South, like where he would have the drums and the bands up there, you know, the college bands that really been held in the South, like
he did on that track, Who Dat?
Yeah. Like he always had that in there with that East Coast flavor too. But I'm just saying, like, image and his dress style, they tried to make him more like a New York guy, and now he's coming back to his Southern roots and style, you know, because if you look at the Southern rappers, they're either regular with their dress wear, or they always add in like cowboy hats, or, you know, like a Andre 3000 or Migos. They go from there to how Cole is dressing now. It's always, between those two sides, You
know what that is, and that's why I really enjoyed that Hot 97 interview with George Clinton. Like that, that's all by way of also there's an influence of like coming from that style and era as well. You know what I'm saying? What I was gonna say about Cole, to your point also, when I first heard him, I knew he was from the South because there was certain points where you hear a slight drawl in the voice.
Yeah,
and
he was like, yeah.
But the more he approached to his debut album release date on a major level, I saw they was pushing the style more East Coast. And I was like, it is what it is, If you come in that way, that's different. Because it's even like with the game sometimes early in his career, which I tend to agree with a lot of his detractors, where they were saying, you West Coast, but you sounding a bit too Harlem. You sounding a bit too Queens that time.
About the game, because you made a great point in your previous videos, though. Mm-hmm. Like, the game never really defined himself locally. He's always been like that. And with the West Coast, he always had West Coast sound that he'll sometimes add, like, the Northeast boom bap with. But vocally, he always sounded somewhat a blend of the two. It's like, but never. It's like mixing it up, but there's chunks in there. Okay. Whereas Kendrick, like we brought up before, especially you, where Kendrick, there's no chunks. It's perfectly blend. That's why people don't say anything about it. Yeah. But with the game, sometimes with his blend, there'll be a lot of chunks in there. Yeah, that's it's not fully blended.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying here is like when you go listen to case in point, when you go listen to I think it's his mixtape series early on, you know what it is, I think volume 1 and 2 and 3, like he sounded like Shine. Even when you listen to it when he did with JT, the Bigger Figure, he sounded like Shine, which is what people were accusing him. It was like, yo, so you West Coast? Like, when you listen to when Nipsey Hussle came out with Bullets Ain't Got No Name on, you knew, you said this is a West Coast rapper, right?
But what you say, though, is because of what he listens to. Like, you look at his roster, though, mm-hmm. I don't see a lot of, like, Southern rappers on there. Like, you hear certain rap, like A Tribe Called Quest and some of them, they had a lot of Southern roots in this shit, even if people don't want to say it. Yeah, but with the game, every time he mentioned people, he only mentions artists from New York or from the West Coast. Like, he'll be like Nas, Jay-Z, Snoop, so he sounds like what he grew up on.
Okay, and then that goes to this other point that I'm about to make, which is why there's always been a danger for artists who are not of the East Coast, who are other regions. What Game, he even said it himself, he was looking to show, because it is the East Coast, that's like the mecca of hip-hop.
At one time now.
You said it.
Yeah. I mean, we all gotta admit that the crown always has to go somewhere else, and it's not on the East Coast right now.
Hopefully things could change. But look, here's the thing. But he said, he was rapping a certain way. He was saying his words a certain way. He was saying certain things. He named one of his children Harlem. Right? Mm-hmm. So he was like, we gotta admit, Game is one of the biggest fans of Jay-Z. As much as he antagonized Jay-Z, it's the same situation where Drake was a big fan of Jay-Z. He felt slighted. Now he's on like, I'm about to kill Jay-Z. Yeah. And when Game felt he threw one of his slick darts out there and it went too far, and then Jay was like, I'm not messing with him. Game wanted Jay-Z's approval. Like that, Jay-Z is the dude in the East. If you got his approval, that's it, right? Game got approval from Nas, he got approval from all these other, but there's this one big elephant that was like, nah, I'm not messing with you.
You saw Jay-Z co-sign a lot of people. He co-signed T.I., he co-signed Jeezy. Some
Rick
people
Ross.
Some people even from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? Now to think, well, I want you to go finish what you say about the game, because I was gonna say Jay-Z actually got an interesting relationship with the South.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was pointed out before.
Even with the producers, he had a lot of Southern producers on his
Timberland.
Albums. Yeah.
Like it's like when you go to the South, that's why they love Jay-Z so much.
That's true, they do.
They love Jay-Z in the South.
I looked up to Jay-Z, Jeezy, a lot of them did, yeah.
And then, when he got on that joint, Big Pimpin', as goofy as
it... the cheese.
Yeah. it was something like at the time it was an infectious tune, right?
Yeah, bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, and Jay-Z, he looked back on it, he said, whatever, I look like I could have done with that one, but it's solidifying. He's always gotten love and stuff. But going back to Game never got that approval from Jay-Z. He never will, to be honest with you. He never will. Maybe through the title thing and how Jay-Z's thinking now that, because he's buried the hatchet with some other artists that he had issues with. But Game was that one dude that he didn't get approval. In fact, it was worse for Game because Game working with Dre still worked with Jay-Z, but Jay-Z won't work with Game. So it was like
people are all about business at the end of the day. Dre still worked with the Game and 50 when they split up. So Dre is not gonna stop working because people are beefing with each other.
So this is the thing I was always saying about the Game. When the Game was trying to make sure the East respect him as an MC, he was also basically kind of spitting out most of the East Coast culture. Because we gotta be real, if you listen to the documentary, right, except for the references to specific points and cultural things in the West, when you listen to it, he sounds like an East Coast rapper.
Yeah, but I just think that that's natural for him.
I'm just saying because of what he digests. But when you hear other guys like a Razzcast from, he listens to everybody, or if you listen to certain other guys from certain areas, you could tell, like, when I listen to Big K.R.I.T, this is my tying into Big K.R.I.T and J. Cole. When I listen to Big K.R.I.T tells you who he listens to. UGK, Scarface, MJG. When you hear J. Cole, he's referencing Nas. He did a song, I Let Nas Down. K.R.I.T ain't did no track like that.
Nope.
He always paying homage to like the Scarfaces and all that type of junk. So you hear it more in his music.
The Game was obsessed with like East Coast.
He was.
East Coast rappers, iconic rappers in the movies. he loved Belly. He loved Cameron. He loved Nas. So, in fact, no offense to the West Coast, but, the Game seems like Northeast rap, then the West Coast, he always sounded like to me, was his influence.
Yeah, and that was my only thing about it, because there were other artists that came out right around that resurgence of the West, but because I always felt they may have sounded too West Coast to certain people, so they didn't click. And then he had 50 co-sign him.
Although the biggest debut ever still was from the West Coast, Snoop Dogg. Although, was it 50?
50 eclipsed him.
Yeah, 50 who eclipsed him, but so the second, from the West Coast.
And I don't know how that ties into Lil Wayne and situation when he dropped Carter 3 and it did $1 million.
Carter 3 was big, but because people forget how much influence the internet has, it still somewhat took away from it. His album would have been even bigger absent, the social media and the illegal, streaming and all that. I think would have been bigger, but because of that, it didn't eclipse, 50 and those who were out there before. It really took off with illegal downloading and now the streamings and all that. Yeah,
so absolutely, I agree with you, Sincere. I know we talked on this one, but K.R.I.T, the album's dope, y'all. Y'all check it out. See what's going on. As you brought up, you did make a great point. If you're talking about in that space of Cole and Kendrick, they even mention Logic a lot more, or sometimes more than a K.R.I.T, which I never felt Logic. Although that's what he patterns himself, I always felt he was like a bootleg of those two guys. Where K.R.I.T got his own style.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was the internet nerd Needle who said it.
Okay.
But whoever said it, I think it was on point. Logic is a big fan of hip hop, but there's other things that he has to admit in this time in his life he's more passionate about. But he raps because he's a fan and he comes from a fan standpoint. He doesn't really come from. That's why he has the skills. Lyrically, he has the skills. He has the ingredients where you would think, man, this guy should. But no, he's more of a fan. He's a fan who has the skill. But again, I can see Logic saying, I prefer writing scripts for movies, or I prefer making video games. It's like there's other things that he's passionate about.
Yeah.
Cole, Kendrick, and K.R.I.T, music is what they eat, sleep, and breathe. So I think that's where it comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know when I first heard Logic and the parts of that last album, It sounds like a fan-made Kendrick album.
Yeah,
It sounds like a fan-made Cole album.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is what it is. It's a dope album. Y'all should check it out, KRIT. Also, what we talked about with the East Coast, West Coast, and Southern, and also the Midwest. What do you guys think about those points as well? And also, who do you think, for you personally, we may be able to discuss it in another video, who do you think at this point in time in this class crop of MCs, who could help bring back the East Coast? Because I'm just going to say...
The ladies you just brought up. I'm sorry, the East Coast. I thought you said music and rap. I'm sorry. The East Coast exclusively. Well, I do think that people undercut Joey Badass, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think his album that he put out lately, his last one was really good. Mm-hmm. And I think with East Coast radio right now is pretty bad because the East Coast radio stations, they get played everywhere. The Breakfast Club,
same playlist everywhere
around this. The United States, for example, you can hear their radio station. And Hot 97, and a lot of them used to break like just new people all the time. And I do know that a lot of them are owned by corporate entities now, and that's not a part of the culture, so the system is different. But I think for the East Coast, the publications, and when it comes to how we operate on the internet, like how Nas has mass appeal, those things will actually bring East Coast hip hop, Northeast hip hop back, because that's really important. It's like with the South, they were always very independent. That's why they were, people can say what they want, but even when New York and Jersey and Philly, all these people were number one, you will always have Southerners creep up in there. And their network was a little bit different than the network within the East Coast. So until you bring back those editorial pieces, until you bring back, even on the internet, it could be in a modern way. Until you bring that culture back, I don't know. And then until a lot of East Coasters stop trying to sound Southern, it's gonna be bad. Unless you're doing a mixture. With Cardi B, the thing that made that song really dope, it does have a trap Southern sound to it, but it's so bodega at the same time. It still sound like a bodega joint at the end of the day. And
she just did it, and I think
like what George Clinton, said, perfect. Why that track is how he perfectly nailed it.
I love what George Clinton said, and Cindy, I was talking about, between George Clinton and James Brown, those two pronouncement and their influence on hip hop was magnanimous. But I love what he said, and that's why I always try to respect a power, whatever it is, just at least respect it. Even if you ethically disagree with whatever the sources of the power is, take points and things away from it. So he was like, if the South has had this incredible run for so long, well, maybe we can start looking and seeing what are the ingredients there, which is what we saw with Cardi B.
It was perfect because she started off a little bit Southern. Do you want to?
With the Kodak Black flow,
which is a Southern record. So she started out, and then it started with the sound. But then when her voice, it was all New York. Then it was like Cardi, and then she started in with the rapping and stuff. Then it sounded like Northeast bodega rap track. So and
I think that's what I personally feel like this. Not necessarily the MCs, because there's some hungry MCs in the East. They're like, I got it, I think the controllers, the filterers, they don't understand that people like to hear lyrics on nobody will ever say, I don't want to hear no lyricism of East Coast at any point in time, when that is what it was built on, hip hop, right? It's just that they're not understanding that Cardi B could work on that type of track, and she was being lyrical on the track as well. People can say what they want to say. I hate when people. She had bars in that joint.
And even the production, it was a mixture of the South and Northeast.
Right.
Because when it go boom ba dum dum, that was like really East Coast boom bap a little bit in it, and then it had, of course, the Southern instrumentation of the Florida, with Kodak Black. with that instrumental. So she just blended the two together, and
Also,
then whoever produced it and her, they blended it together.
Yeah, and it's like when we heard Nas on a Summer Madness remix with Future, and then we turned around and heard him on album Done. People like to hear words being put together, and they got to understand that. And again, like I said, if y'all get a chance, check out the book Third Coast. It's going to tell you how all of this is really more integrated than what we think it is. And for me, I just look at a hip hop perspective. You know, it's just music. You know, it's a very powerful, dominant genre, and it becomes a shell of itself when we start to outsource it and allow other people to control it. But anyway, that's why I think sonically what Big K.R.I.T did with this album is very important, especially to Southern hip hop as well, in the tradition of Organized Noise and the rest of them brothers and sisters as well. So anyway, folks, leave your comments below. Of course, this is Prince Solomon.
And it's your girl Sincere.
We are out. Peace.
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.
Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves,
There's like a 3% chance I'll get run out of the league if I speak my mind.
Slaves.
And black men, how?
What business are you in?
I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
I make my bread and butter.